Hi, I'm Cinsy and welcome back to my How to Make More Plants Part 2. Today I'm going to carry on with my How to Make More Plants Part 2. There's only a couple of things that I want to mention in this video that I felt was too long for my previous video, hence Part 2. So today I'm going to talk to you about Alocasia corms, propagating in perlite, sphagnum moss, and what else? Oh, and Wetsticks. I'm going to start off with my Alocasia corms, which I had propagating in perlite, which I will say is a new thing that I have learned, and actually it's been really successful and I really like doing it. I think it's good for you to see how I do the perlite propagations from scratch with my bulbs, and you can see how successful they've gotten so far. You notice that I've got my great KFC gravy pots because KFC gravy is the best. So yeah, okay, let's start. It's just, I try to basically reuse everything that I've got. So bubble tea, KFC gravy pots, anything that you can find and reuse, use it. Okay, so I've got perlite in water. That's what this is, just because it's so dusty. So I've just opened a new bag that I got from Wilko because I was having an absolute field day in Wilko's. They had like 3 aisles of gardening, like plant stuff. So yeah, I was really enjoying myself, and it was really funny actually because it was literally me and just old people along the aisle, and I was loving it. Basically what I did was rinse the perlite in this pot that I have, just because it's really dusty. And then I'm going to put them in my KFC pot or anywhere that you're propagating. This is only the second time that I've bought perlite. I've only just, I finished my old bag of perlite quite recently, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to buy perlite again because I found out that perlite is not sustainable. It doesn't decompose and it does last forever. And because I like to change my pots over quite often and just kind of give fresh soil, I just feel like it's a bit of a waste, especially if the perlite doesn't decompose. So that was kind of one thing that was weighing on my mind. But I try to reuse my soil as much as I can, or mix it with fresh ones, so I'm not just, so it's not just going to waste. Okay, so it's literally just a pot of perlite. That is as simple as that. So I'm going to pour some water into the perlite, about 3/4 of the way. Actually, this is probably a bit more than 3/4. But so it's spacious. And then I've got a few different Alocasia corms that I have. I'll lay them out so you can kind of see them on my table. This is my new table that I've gotten. I literally got it today and it was perfect for filming. Okay, you can see that they're all at different stages. Okay, so I've got different Alocasia corms here. I have 4 black velvet Alocasia corms and 1 pink dragon that took a while to root. So these are how they're grown, just really small little corms. So they do take a few weeks to root. I have found that rooting them in perlite has been the most successful. I did have them in a small pot of soil that was quite wet, and nothing really happened. So I took them out and put them in perlite, and actually this is what it's come to. So this is from 1 bulb. So when I was doing some research, I learned that the roots would come out of one end and the stem would grow from the other. But from all of my Alocasia corms that I've rooted, actually they've all come from the fatter end, where the root has left. So the opposite side of the root when you do cut them off from the plant. I lay them sideways in perlite just so that it is getting as much water as possible. I kind of just put them in half-half, like halfway, half in water, half not, so it's not going to rot. And then, like, look at how amazing these roots are. Can you see? Look at how amazing these roots are from just perlite. I think that's so good. Okay, so lastly I have a really tiny baby Syngonium pink splash cutting that I had rooted from a longer cutting, but I've cut it in half because there were 2 growth points, except that the lower growth point I realised stopped growing, so I thought I'll give her the chop now this one has developed and got a new leaf coming. So I've cut her for the bottom half of the cutting to grow, and have added wax at the bottom to hopefully try and avoid the stem from rotting. And then I'm just going to place the whole cutting into the perlite so that there is enough space for the node to start rooting. I have something exciting that I want to do with this Alocasia pink dragon, so for now, in the meantime, I'm going to continue letting it root in the perlite here. So I'm just going to put it down again halfway and just let it develop its roots more until I'm ready to use it for what I really want it for. You just want to make sure that they're not fully submerged in the water, just so that to avoid root rot or anything, and yeah, it's that simple. And the really good thing about using these KFC gravy pots is that I can keep an eye on the roots and I can really see them. Just got my soil mix that I pre-made. I use it for all my plants. I'll probably do a video on it at some point. I'm gonna pot these 3 corms all together just because they're not that big, so I think it would look nice to be bushy. Enough for the corms to fit in, like so. Okay, so I've just kind of rested them in there, and then cover the top. Yeah, I'm just potting it like any other plant. When you're potting up a cutting or a corm, just like these, when they've been propagating in water, you want to make sure that the soil stays quite moist for the first couple of weeks, just because it's so used to being soaked in water, and then when you're putting it in soil and it's super dry, your plant is just going to dry out. But then if you suddenly soak it, when you water it every so often, you'll just cause root rot. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. So I'm just going to make sure that the soil is fully soaked and wet. And I will probably water this every other day, little and often, just to make sure that it is moist. So we have our perlite propagations, our potted Alocasia corms. So the second thing that I wanted to talk to you about is Wetsticks, and this really is a learning curve and just something that I'm trying to get used to. At the moment I have 2 Wetsticks. It's exciting and it is a fun project just because it's something to be proud of when you've grown your own plant from a single stick. When you're trimming down your plants, especially when they're leggy or you've had leaves that have died and you've got the node there but there's just a big gap, if you're going to throw it away anyway, it's always a fun project to try and grow it back to a completely new plant. Like, what's the harm in doing it if you're just going to throw it away? So yeah, that is definitely good. As long as there is a section where there is a node and that's where the leaves grow out from, it will root and it will hopefully grow new leaves. And I've got it rooting in sphagnum moss, just here. So I've literally just left it laying on top, and I finally got some growth. Can you see? Kind of. Yeah. So anyway, so I finally got some growth. I've grown this in sphagnum moss, and this is also a gloriosum wetstick that I have growing in moss too. Also with a new tiny growth point just here. I am kind of tempted to put it in the Perlite propagation just to see how well it would root. I think I might try actually. I just really hope it doesn't rot. So I'm gonna put it in. I'm gonna put it in the Perlite to propagate. But what I'm gonna do, because I have had it in sphagnum moss, which is, although it is wet, it's very airy, so it's not going to be forced to be soaked in water. So I'm just going to place it on top of the Perlite and kind of hopefully let it grow some roots when it wants to, and we'll see how far it goes. So I'm going to keep an eye on the Gloriosa wet stick just because I really do not want that to rot. But I actually think it might work better and it will grow faster. I hope it does and it doesn't rot. We'll just have to wait and see, and I'll give you the updates as soon as there are stronger roots. Okay, that's that. That's pretty much it for this video. Oh, but I will show you updates from the last video. Okay, so it's been exactly 1 month since I filmed my How to Make More Plants part 1, and I thought I would show you a update on the cuttings that I made. However, I actually completely forgot that I needed to make a part 2, and I gave away quite a few of the cuttings, and I sent a few to my friends, so I don't have all of them, but I made a few more cuttings about 2.5 weeks ago, so the roots are not as much as if it were a month ago, but this root is from 2.5 weeks. Like, they root so amazingly well. Like, can you see that? Like, look at the roots on this. So yeah, like, they root so well. So rooting in water are so fast. As you can see, like, all these cuttings have roots now, which is amazing, and they'll literally all be separate plants each. And I'll probably give these away again. Yeah, it's just like the roots are so strong, like they're so good, and it's amazing. Like, now I've got I've got about 5 new plants just from these because they've all rooted into individual plants. You can either pot them together or pot them individually. The good thing about rooting plants in water is that if you do knock your plant and it snaps, then just stick it in some water and then you've got a whole new plant. How amazing is that? And then this is my pink princess that I air layered, that has loads of crazy roots now from having all this moss here and being in my rehab box as well. It's pushed out, I think, 2 new growths since. Okay, so let's see if you can see all the roots. So there's loads of new roots here. Oh, you're gonna have to ignore my nails, they are not pretty. Where are they? Why can't you see them? Okay, so there's loads of new roots here. And then there's some here. They're just kind of everywhere. Which is perfect because it means that they are ready to cut. I'm going to make the cut here. I don't know if you can see, but there is the smallest, there's the tiniest little gap there, right where my finger is. So I've got my scissors through, and ta-da! Perfect. From the air layering and the rehab box, it's got crazy roots growing everywhere. So you know this plant is going to survive, whereas if you just made the cut without air layering, you now have to put it in water, cut this leaf, and this leaf. So if you were just making a normal cutting without air layering, you'd have to cut off the first 3 leaves that it has because there are no roots, so that the plant saves as much energy as it can to work on growing its roots. But where it already has roots, it's literally not a problem that we have to worry about at all. So that's it on this video on how to make more plants part 2. I hope that this helps you and that you will try different perlite propagations and even try to grow wet sticks or air layering. If you have any questions, please feel free to message me or comment down below. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you found it very interesting. Thank you for watching this YouTube video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe.